G'day guys, Rick here. Just thought I'd take a bit of time to run over tomorrow's meeting at Caulfield. It looks a really solid betting day. Hopefully the rain doesn't impact the track too much. We'll put a bit of a dampener on things, and we can have a good bet tomorrow, because it does really look to be a very attractive betting day. So hopefully it will all work out and the track soaks up the rain. Look, race one, it's a 4,000 metre race, and it's pretty likely that it'll be the same few again, but I guess it's also as likely that they won't run the trip and anything else could win. So clearly the 1 and 2 on exposed form to date are the runners we would need to respect, and they've both come out about the same price, around $2.50, we'll call it. And I think the market at this stage is about bang on that. So just past there. There's no point betting in that race. On the race two, and look, I think I'll just have a look at the scratchings here. I think we've had a couple come out actually. So we've got 2, 3, and 5 come out. So we just backbone. So I'll just take him out. So I got Shoreham into about $3.10, and look, guys, this horse is going really well. I thought his run last start was really promising behind Sartorius, and he obviously hit the line well. There was a few weeks between runs, and just really had a good look about the way he finished off. And really, he was only beaten by Escardo and Sartorius, and Escardo's a pretty solid type of horse, with strong form going back last prep around Trust in August, and he was only beaten 3.4 lengths behind Hucklebuck and Lucky Hustler in the Emirates. So it's a pretty solid sort of form line, and I think that he looks primed to run quite well here. And if we go back to his last campaign, third up, he was only beaten 5 lengths in the Turnbull behind Lucia Valentina, and had really strong sectionals. In fact, he had, I think from memory, the best last 400 of the race. So really expect this horse is going to go quite big tomorrow. We've got Toolie Buck Kid and Star Fashion, who look to be the next best, and probably the two main dangers clearly. I think Star Fashion, she's a little bit tricky to line up. Her peak class figure was at 2,000 metres in the SA Oaks behind May's Dream, but her peak speed figures are around a mile. So it's she's a little bit in no man's land. We're going to find out a bit more about her tomorrow, whether she can, run to the same level on speed as her class would suggest, which she peaked out around 103, and that was, as I said, in the SA or the Australasian Oaks, whatever they call it over there. And Toolie Buck Kid, he's been up for a while, this horse. We know a fair bit about this horse. He obviously runs well all the time. He's a very consistent type of horse. And I just noted that he did win on dead tracks last campaign over 2,000 metres, 8th up and 9th up at Caulfield. And he's hitting this race 8th up, Caulfield 2,000, on what's likely to be a dead track. It's not going to be rock hard. So he might be a horse that, we could shorten up a little bit. I could certainly be a bit kinder to him on the speed side of things. He does have quite a big speed figure on that affected going. And in fact, in one of them runs, he actually beat Escardo by 3.5 lengths. So it does tie back in there. So we'll just wait and see there what happens. But it does look a race where it's down to 3 hopes. On the race 3, and we've got Miss Promiscuity resuming here. She looks to get a fairly decent run on the map. She's drawn barrier 1. We've probably got Menage going over to lead. Brave Journey will probably kick over and sit outside Miss Promiscuity and possibly work up outside of Menage. See No Eagle probably won't be far away. Pathway is interesting to see what it does from barrier 4. It's got the potential to probably keep Missy Longstocking posted 3 wide. And if Missy Longstocking tries to go back, it's definitely going to be posted 3 wide. So just doesn't map very well to my Missy Longstocking. I think that it's going to need a lot of luck early to get in. Of course, it's possible that we'll get that luck and make our plans look a bit silly, but it just looks a bit hard for her. It's more unlikely she's going to be able to probably get that run, depending on what they do. But look, Miss Promiscuity, I thought she trialled well at Tatura. Her late sectionals were good there. She didn't do it overly hard early, but it was encouraging to see her put in a sharp burst like that. Just her pattern and where she's going to sit on the fence. It's just going to be all probably within her normal sort of style. She's performed well on soft tracks before. She's a runner that's performed well first up. And, if she's able to get the split at the right time, which is always a bit of a challenge from barrier 1, I think that, just peeling this race back and having a look at them, Mrs. Longstocking, a query on the map. Miss Steele is going to get back. See No Eagle, speed figures a little bit inferior, but she's there for us. Flying Hostess, too far back from 10. Nautical, number 1 class. I've penalised it for the gate, but this horse, it's got real good ability on its day. It's in the race. Menage, it'll work forward, no doubt about that. I thought it was a negative ride by Ben Mellon last start. Definitely Maloney will be instructed to go forward. It's just a little bit short. And, the others, they're so. Brave Journey, Vain Attraction. Pathways is going quite well, but, it sort of needs to lift to a new level here. And Counted we know a bit about. And then you've got Miss Promiscuity. So, she's sort of got the best speed rating. She's a horse that's shown the most promise. And she probably doesn't really have to do a great deal to beat these. Probably is a little bit better than her class figure suggests. So Miss Promiscuity looks to go here, probably from Menage and Nautical. Menage just a bit of unders at the moment. On to the next. This is quite a difficult race. There's a lot going on here that you can't see with amendments for map positions and adjustments and whatnot. So, look, it's a difficult race. There's no doubt this Bella's Ron and Lord Da Vinci were good at Bendigo on that big day they had there. The little query is, where are they going to get to from the car park? I guess the wetter the track, the better for Bella's Ron. It's a horse that certainly loves the wet. So if it is really wet, which I don't think it will be, but if it is, it will bring it right back into it. And the other thing we need to remember is the rail's out 9 metres here. So, these horses that are going to get well back from these wide gates, unless, they can find the fast lane, it may be quite difficult. I thought that Olivier was good. We were on him at Sandown, and he was just way too good for them. And he's certainly a horse, I think, that can probably map pretty well and end up midfield in a good spot. We've got some horses that are just going to drop right out. They've probably got no choice. Bella's Ron, Marwood, Del Prado, Gerontius, Lord Da Vinci, and Grain. They're probably not going to go forward because they've got to have to deal with Nicosine, Bullpit, Override, and Beacon, who are going to go forward and have to cross Sunday Escape, which, is quite a task for those horses that are going to get back. So we'll see what happens with the scratchings, but, probably none of the emergencies are likely to come out, and none of the emergent that are likely to come out are horses that will be going forward. So I thought Olivier looked, not a bad little early bet here for half stakes. He's met Bella's Run before and beat him, and he's got good form at Caulfield behind Late Charge and finished ahead of Precious Gem. So I think he looks a nice way to go. I think he's good overs early. I've just half staked him though, just because of the doubt about what's going to happen with some of these scratchings. And obviously if the rain does come, we could be dealt with some more scratchings. Also, Marwood always had a big opinion of this horse. He's a highly talented horse. Where he gets to from a wide gate, we sort of don't know either. So happy to just dip the toe in here, half stakes on Olivia at the early overs, and we'll finish the rest off tomorrow. Race 5, the 2-year-olds, I've got no idea. The ratings sort of suggest that the top two have the best exposed speed, and generally that's the key indicator, but I'm happy to pass. Make that one red. On the race 6, and Trust in August resumes. Look, he's come out around, call it $1.60, and it's very hard to go past this horse. You know, he finished off last campaign in brilliant fashion. He probably should have just about been unbeaten. He was wide the trip first up at Moonee Valley over 1200, and won when he shouldn't have. Excuse me, he was wide the trip second up and should have won, and obviously was then unbeaten, winning 4 from 5. Beat Lucky Hustler, a recent Group 1 winner by 2.3 lengths. He's got a win there over Under the Louvre, who's flying and goes around favourite in the last tomorrow. Strong win over Dissonant, Bull Point. Just, you can't really get much better form than this. The horse has a win on a heavy track, winning by 2.8 lengths at Ballarat over 1400 metres. You know, it all reads pretty well for this horse. Look, again, he's got an inside gate. Williams just doesn't want to get stuck on the fence, but there's enough evidence for us to suggest that this horse is just a class above these and should win. Tycoon Tara, we know a bit about her. She goes quite well. Obviously, a strong runner on exposed speed, up there with Trust in August, but she doesn't really have the class. And you know, she's had 2 goes on the soft for just modest returns. But we'll see how she goes. But she's going to probably work over and be the one that they need to catch. But you know, he's got 4 4.25 lengths class on her, and he only has to give away 2 kilos. So you know, that's significant. So I think he just looks a standout bet for us there. On to the next race, and look, the ratings really narrowed it down to 2 runners. Look, Sydenham is on a backup at 1 on the backup at Bendigo in the Guineas there, and it's on the backup again here. It just doesn't really map the best. It's drawn out wide, and you know, it's a horse that is sort of a midfield type of horse. So where it gets to from here, I'm not sure. It either has to work too hard to go forward, or get stuck wide, or get too far back. So the 3 options for it tomorrow aren't great. Plus the fact that it's up against Fontaine Ruby and Jurasound, and look, Fontaine Ruby is clearly the class runner here. It's in very well under these conditions. It did win off quite a soft tempo last start, and stuffed the start up at Flemington in the Guineas and got too far back. Bit of a forgive, but besides that, its runs are faultless. It's had exposure to a slow track on 1 occasion and was a dominant winner by 1.8 lengths at Sandown back as a 2-year-old. And you know, it's got a good platform of runs under it. 4 runs this campaign, solid class and speed figures, and you know, it looks like it's, you know, ready to go to a new level on the class, and certainly, again, if we go back to its runs last prep, it's certainly got, you know, some solid figures to really leap off here, and you know, Hall's on, and he should be able to give it a good ride from there. And then on to Jurasound, who was just dominant at Mornington. She returned a better horse than she went out, and it was off a 36-day break and quite a solid tempo. So she's either been a massive improver or she just loved Mornington. I know that she has ran quite well twice at Mornington. I think it's probably a little bit of both, but if you just go back and watch your replays, she flogged Mulligera, and Mulligera came out and was just sort of pipped by Settenham. So she clearly looks to have Settenham covered, just taking that line, and the figures suggest that also. And she's another horse that from barrier 4, it's hard to see her not having a really good run. So very confident we can just focus right in on these two runners. How we back them at this stage, I'm not quite sure. I'm not sure if Durasan will be how good it will be on the wet track, but we'll just have to monitor that. But certainly Fontaine Ruby looks a really good bet here. Clearly a standout on class with Durasan the main danger. On the race day, and look at another special conditions race, and Self Sense. Yeah, he's very, very well in here. He's a 93 raider. He's got a couple of lengths, to the next best horse, and he basically it's set weights, level weight. So he's got a big advantage on them on class under these conditions, and as you can see, up around 118 on speed. He's clearly right up there in the top bracket of speed runners in the race. He's got the informed Ben Mallam, who's rating 100 at the moment, and he's just riding head and shoulders above anyone else in Melbourne. So he's a lot sort of ticks the boxes here. He won the Kilmore Cup. He's been up to Sydney and ran really well in a couple of 2,000 metre races. Look, we've seen this horse be able to work forward before in the past and sit up on the speed and box on and win really well. And I think that's probably what they're going to have to do is work forward here. And if we sort of look back, he's a horse that has been able to run very well, winning the Kilmore Cup on a rock hard track, running 10 lengths above average. He ran 11 lengths above average on a hard track at Randwick, and he's a horse that's been able to run very strong speed figures on soft going also, with solid wins by 3.8 lengths to Ralbin, 1 length at Caulfield over 2,000 metres. So it's very hard to fault this horse tomorrow. He really looks well in. I thought that the other major form line here was through the Tatura Cup, and we've got Resistant written up and Reforgent all coming through that race. And I think Resistant looks a really nice overs. He was only beaten 1.3 lengths in that race. He led, he boxed on really well. It was 27 days between runs. He returned almost a peak speed rating for his career. In fact, it was his best speed rating since the 5th of April 2014, which coincidentally was a year on from his run in the Tatura Cup. And the fact that it was 27 days between runs gives me the inkling that this horse may have a bit more to come. So I'm not exactly sure why he's 20 to 1. We've got him marked 750, so he represents significant value. I think he can really run a big race for us here. Really good form, and obviously just a lot looks good for this horse. And then we've got Refulgent. I think he was a little bit flat, Refulgent, from his run prior at Bendigo, where he ran 10.5 lengths above the average early. I think he can bounce right back here. He's going to back pretty well. And then onto Written Up, who, look, Mott's in very ordinary form. As you can see, he's about the equal worst jockey in the race, and he's got his work cut out from barrier 14. I think Written Up's a horse that, we can work around the mile and probably, I think may end up probably not a bad lay. He's currently $9, $7.50. I'd be very surprised if this horse started that short. He should be a lot closer to our rated price. But certainly Resistant looks a big price, and in fact he's probably a horse that we can have a half stake on. I think he's well worthy of a half stake at $21, this horse. So I'll update the other sheet and whack that out. On to the next race, on the Gregors here, and look, it's very hard to fault this horse Gregors. just looking at its figures, it excuse me, it really burst onto the scene early days, and I looked at its run at Moonee Valley 3 campaigns back now. Looking at class figures, it ran to 109 there behind Spirit of Boom. Then it went to Adelaide in that Group 1 for the mares and ran to 108. And it was never able to get back to that level. Last campaign it ran to 102 first up on class, and then 105 when it beat Commanding Jewel on Time for Julia. And then it just lost its way a little bit, but it resumed with 105 at Moonee Valley behind Platelet. And if you sort of watch that replay, 100 metres over the line, it was miles ahead of Platelet. It really looked to me like it didn't handle Moonee Valley too well, and it didn't take the turn too well, and ended up wide and unbalanced, and took a while just to hit its straps again. But boy, once it hit its straps, its work was quite strong, and the fact that if you just watch that replay over the line, it pulled right away. And if I even line up its speed figures, its best was around 115 on speed, and it's resumed with 112 pretty much. So, this horse is it's just returned a length below its best, which is something it's never done. I just sort of expect this horse will take it to the next level. It's just a clear standout on class. It's 100, given the length improvement, it's 108, and rating it to its best on speed, it's 116, as you can see there. It comes out 6-4 in the old $2.50, and it's 108 and nothing else over 100. Don't worry about the weight. That's a significant advantage. So on talent, the horse is clearly the one to beat. If we want to look at the map, the danger here is what's going to happen from barrier 1. I think it's going to take a pretty good position up. I don't know if it can lead a loping. I doubt it can. I think a loping trial quite well. The danger here for this horse is traffic. If they cark it in its lap, and the other danger is if the track's off and the rail's off and they're running on down the outside, which is also a possibility. So there's a couple of variables, but I think it's well worthy of having a bit of a half stake snip at the $5 on offer, which is double our rating. And the horse has got soft track form. So, there's a couple of things that can beat the horse, a couple of variables, but on talent, this is just a rock solid bet. Hazard, look, we backed this horse first up. It won quite easily, won in a headlock. It's got a lot more to come. It probably doesn't want it too wet, but it's got the best speed figure. And if we have a look at the jockey and trainer there, the Friedman and Malum there, they're way ahead. We've got Sabatini and Eloping at $15. Look, Sabatini was a huge run last start at Flemington. It's been a huge all campaign, but the reality is it had the length of the Flemington straight last start to pick up Wild Whale, and it just couldn't do it. And unless there's a super fast lane out wide, it's got a shorter straight here over 1200, and the rail's out 9 metres, and it just might be a little bit hard for this horse to peg them back, especially when Gregor's is at its peak. Looking at how fast it can run its last 400 and 200, it can go with a horse like sorry, I've got messages coming in here everywhere. Sabatini. So Sabatini's really going to have to just have a career best run or a lot of luck or a fast lane. So yeah, it's a bit of a tricky sort of race out, lining up where they're going to get to from the map and all that. But, handy on pace, rail out 9 metres, class horse of the race, Gregor's, it's hard to go past. And then on the race 10, this is a tough race. Just open it up for you. again, well, it's pretty even on the class. There's a lot of horses. There's not a lot between them. Under the Louvre and Sistine Demon, they rate quite well. But they've got 19 and 18. We know Under the Louvre he's just going to go back and be left for one last run. We know Sistine Demon will work forward. Whether or not that's going to suit him, I'm not sure. That's highly unlikely it will suit him. We've got Amarino, who is going quite well. I think the tempo didn't suit him last time. It will suit him a lot better here, a solidly run race. Then we've got Marianne, who just looks to get a dream run. Maps really well. Barrier 3, soft's okay. Strong form lines through Noble Protector. It's pretty hard to fault. I think it's your on pace that is going to be hardest to beat. And obviously your swooper is going to be Under the Louvre. Look, probably going to end up with Under the Louvre shorter, probably a lot closer to the market. Probably because I think the track will end up being wet, and if it is a lot wetter, he sort of goes from a 121 to a 1. And as you can see on that raw adjustment, he gets into 1.7. So, if we give him, if we say he's in the $3, if we say he's 2 lengths better, he gets into 2.2. So, this horse can change, and obviously if we see a big pattern of swooping, that's another thing we can do. So I think they're the ones, Under the Louvre and Marianne, that clearly rate on top. Amarino, we'll wait and see with him with the track, but I think he's going quite well. Perelic's another one. I thought he ran quite well first up. I've just got a note in here, if the track's quite soft, I have to adjust him from a 116 or 120. So he comes into around $13, which I think he's still on. He's still unders. He's about $9 or $10. So yeah, just a little change there for him. Gets him in a little bit shorter, but still not quite a bet. He's a horse that I think is much better on softer ground. So yeah, that concludes the early look at tomorrow, members. Unfortunately, there's a little bit of uncertainty with the weather, which is a bit of a thorn in the side. Otherwise, I'd just be suggesting to launch here and launch big time, because there's some absolute standouts. Just the 9 metres, will it be leaderish, or will the back markers find the fast lanes? I'm not sure. So we'll just have a few select early bets, and we'll just half stake them so we don't get caught with our pants down if the track changes. And if it doesn't change, obviously we've been able to take a little bit of an advantage of some early prices and hopefully be able to cash in. So thanks for joining us. I'll put a thing on the page this is on, that if you want to have a chat about any of the horses, or you've got any questions, jump on Skype. If you haven't got Skype, download it. It's very simple and it's free. And join our group chat. We've got 19 or 20 members in there. Just a little bloke saying g'day and asking questions about horses. It's a good environment. And obviously, if the chat happens to go down, or there's any issues with the website, it's a good way for us to have a backup plan to communicate. So I hope you enjoyed the early edition, and if you've got any questions, yell out. Otherwise, I'll catch you tomorrow. Thank you.